All right, you're up.
Thank you so much. I'm Alice. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Thank you for having me. I am also anxious, Steve. I'm really, really glad to be here and appreciate the opportunity to speak on step 5. My connection has been a little glitchy today, so if at any point it becomes necessary to turn off my video, just go for it. Um, Step 5, man. And welcome to those who are new or might be struggling. Um, Step 4 and 5, I think, can have a bad reputation in the rooms. Like when I first came in, before even reading about or understanding anything about those steps, I knew I was supposed to be afraid of them. Like, man, where does that come from? This is, and it ended up being some of the most transformative experiences, and so um, once we take these steps, like it's so far from scary. In fact, our fears fall from us. Um, to talk about step 5, I'm probably going to dip into the surrounding steps a little bit, since it's all connected and all flows together from one to the next. Um, I think I'm going to start though, the summary of step 5 is admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And so when I get to hear the 5th step of someone I'm working with, I try to make it clear that I'm third on that list. They're admitting it to themselves and they're admitting it to their higher power, and I get to be a listener. Um, and the level of participation of a sponsor in that 5th step can really vary, but I'm probably going to speak of both my experience taking the 5th step and then also listening to a 5th step with another person. I'm all about the big book, but there's this great passage in the 12 and 12 where it talks about until we had taken the 5th step and also listened to another do their 5th step, like then there's this real sense of belonging, or I'm not sure what the exact line says, but it's something along those lines, and that was my experience too. I think most of us who um, are privileged to work with others probably remember the first time we heard a 5th step, and how it ends up there's something that happens in that space, one alcoholic with another. It's never just one person being helped. And the 5th step in its just simplicity is reading what I've written in my 4th step writing to another human being. That's really it. I'm just reading it out loud. Obviously, there's more to it. There's more that takes place, but at the end of the day, that's really what it is. It really is that simple. And I'm going to read a little bit. I'm going to kind of jump around a bit in the book, but on page 75, we have these 5th step promises where in the middle of the page, and this is what we might experience if we have illuminated every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, I don't think there's any such thing as a perfect 4th step writing. Like I forgot a whole bunch of stuff in my 4th step, but I didn't knowingly hold back. I withheld nothing. Delighted, look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. that's some pretty amazing stuff right there. And it also, like, I think that this also is telling me before I take that fifth step, maybe I don't have certain spiritual beliefs. Maybe I don't feel like the drink problem is going anywhere. And so, so often I'll work with somebody who might be discouraged, that they're still afraid, they're still struggling with the drink problem prior to taking the fifth step. And it's like, that's normal. That's, you know what I mean? The steps are a package deal. It takes taking all of them to recover. But oh my gosh, after the fifth step to start experiencing this, then that can happen pretty quickly. That's amazing. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. That's huge. To start having spiritual beliefs and a spiritual experience, huge. I'll probably get more into it later, but I remember walking out of my sponsor's house the day I did my fifth step, and there was this feeling of like, it's okay to be me. I don't want to be that me anymore. I don't want to be the me that I just read on paper and had to say out loud. Like, but I'm not beating myself up over that past stuff either. And I'm having this really strong feeling that I'm going to keep changing. That this power that's already starting to change me is going to keep going, and it's real. And that there's a lot of growth coming from here. And it was really like the weight had been lifted from my shoulders, that I wasn't carrying around that past anymore in the way that I had been. Going back over to 72, sorry, beginning of Into Action. It says, having made our personal inventory, all that writing in step 4, what shall we do about it? Yeah, what shall we do about it? Burn it? No. We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. The obstacles in what path? The obstacles that are blocking me from that relationship with my Creator. The obstacles that are blocking me from this relationship with this power that I sorely need. We have admitted certain defects. We've ascertained a rough way what the trouble is. Yeah, I kind of knew, through the writing itself. There's a lot of pretty transformative experience in just the writing alone, but it's just not enough. We put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Check this out. Know these are about to be cast out. Holy cow. These weak items in my inventory, these things in me that are revealed through the fourth step writing, get to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the fifth step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. This is perhaps difficult, yeah, especially discussing our defects with another person. Yeah, it's not easy, and to share just a little bit about the the writing that we're talking about in step 4. Step 4, it's guiding us to take inventory of our resentments. And, once we list all these resentments and the way they disturbed us, we're guided through this way to see that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick, and we're shown how to look at our own mistakes. And that in itself is quite a shift. Instead of blaming the other person, I'm looking at me now. And I'm looking at the ways in which I hurt these people too, and the ways in which they're simply human. I am simply human. And I have probably done some of the same things they've done. I'm not better nor worse than anyone on my list. And that in itself was a pretty big change from the way I'd been looking at the world, and see that these resentments come from my self-centeredness, my self-centered need to play God, just being like that actor who wants to run the whole show as any other human being on the planet can be, that we see in step 3. And then I list my fears, and I see how self-reliance has failed me. And I take a sex inventory and look at the ways in which I've been selfish when it comes to the sex urge, and take a look at relationships in my life and look at the ways in which I've harmed people, and how living on self-will, living on Alice power, what that results in. That results in me hurting a lot of people and staying afraid. So obviously it's not working. And admitting this to myself is one thing. Seeing it on paper makes it a little more real. But then reading it out loud to another person, I'm not able to deceive myself anymore. And the book talks about, how solitary self-appraisal is really insufficient. Yeah, like me reading all this to myself, I can still get a little twisted and be like, yeah, I've admitted my wrongs. Might still be wanting to focus on other person's fault, or I still want to wallow in self-pity, or I still want to retaliate or argue, even in my sincerest desire to follow this program and seek God. I can still delude myself. And so there is something that happens when I get to admit it out loud to another person. And it says at the bottom of 7B2, best reason first, we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Like, that's a really huge reason it takes 5, right? And just as I read, like, we may not overcome drinking if we don't do this step, but then if we do this step, the drink problem can start to disappear. Wow, like reasons to take this step. It says further, time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Yeah, of course. Well, I'll speak for myself. I came in thinking that I was very unique, and I certainly wanted you to know how unique I was, but there were certain things I did not want to tell you. There are certain things that were just too embarrassing, and I don't want to say that out loud, because then it's real, and it's uncomfortable to look at myself. And I'm really looking at myself if I'm involving another person. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they've turned to easier methods. The easier method is just, I guess, trying to blow out conscious of this intolerable situation. And we know how well that works. And almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. Yeah, this is not a 4-step program, 3-step program, 11-step program. It's 12 steps. And if I can't do any of this perfectly, but if I hold back, if I don't completely give myself to this simple program, if I try to deceive myself, the other steps are going to fall apart. Not being thorough in the 5th step would bleed into 6 through 12. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but they hung on some of the worst items in stock. To get personal for a minute, my sponsor, she's quite a bit older than me, and she is still married to the first man she ever kissed. Isn't that cute? My history is a little different. And when it came time to read, some things that came up in my resentments, but particularly in the sex inventory, when it came time to read some of that stuff, I felt like I'm telling my grandma things that she's never even heard of, like it was, I was very much um, afraid and embarrassed and ashamed. And yet, I'm so grateful that my sponsor had those differences, because had she had the same history, I might have presented that information in a glorified way, or be like, "Oh, isn't it funny how I used to be so wild, wink, wink," and I would have really missed the point of this exercise, seeing how self had failed me. And also, what came as a result of our differences is I knew I was reading things to this woman that were very different than her personal experience, and yet she just she just listened. I don't think I shocked her at all, really. And I was waiting for a lecture. I was waiting for her to scold me, and she did nothing of the sort. She just listened and said, "Okay." So I had to just look at the bare facts of my self-centeredness rather than glorify it. And I also got to see that it's still okay to be me, but I really don't want to be that me anymore. I don't want to glorify this. I don't want to try to make it sound cute. It's not. So I'm really grateful for those differences that we had and that she was able to listen. Um, it says, I'm continuing on 73 at the end of that first paragraph, but they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. All my life story is told through the inventories. This isn't really an autobiography. I wasn't sitting there telling my sponsor everything from birth until present time. That, in my opinion, would be pretty grandiose and beside what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to see how self has failed us. And that humility, fearlessness, honesty. I didn't feel fearless as I was reading my fifth step to my sponsor, but I did it anyway. So I was tapping into some faith and courage, not of my own. It says more than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. So here we have, he is very much the actor. So we get another actor analogy, but it's using it in a different way. And in step 3 is talking about the actor who just wants to be the director. Now this is an actor who is presenting a stage character, presenting a different version of ourselves than is really the truth. To the outer world, he presents a stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation. I want to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his sprees. Yeah. So that inconsistency is present when I'm sober too. That inconsistency is present, sober or drunk. I'm trying to present something that's not really me. I'm trying to, I want you guys to see me a certain way because I depend on your view of me to be okay. If you don't like me, I'm not okay. I'm depending on you rather than depending upon God. Coming to his senses, he's revolted. At certain episodes, he vaguely remembers. Yeah, I had that, where all I remembered was that I should probably be revolted. Like, I don't remember the details, but this is probably not good. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. Oh my goodness, how dare I show weakness and vulnerability and, be not in control in front of other people. I never was in control in the first place. But I thought I had to be. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. Again, blotting out the consciousness of my intolerable situation as best I could. I couldn't do that for very long. I tried, man. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking. Yeah, I drank over my drinking. You know, how logical is that? But I did it. I had no other way to react to myself. Um, Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. You know, it's funny. In I was curious what the first edition of the Big Book said there, because in 1939 people weren't spending thousands of dollars for examinations, right? You know what the original manuscript says? Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. It said exactly the same thing back in 1939. We've been spending money on therapy for a long time. And listen to this, and I'm not knocking therapy, it's absolutely valuable. But here's the thing, we know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We've seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice. Does that make sense? Like I would do that. I would see a therapist and many times pay out of it, pay out of my own pocket, um, and not tell them the truth and not follow their advice, and then come back week after week spending more money, wondering why it's not working, and blaming them, when like, yeah, man. Um, how could it have worked? And I wouldn't be as likely to do that with a medical doctor, like, oh, I'm not going to tell you where it hurts, I'm going to lie about it, and then not like, but with my mental and emotional health, um I somehow had to hide that. I had to hide any kind of vulnerability, and I wasn't going to listen to your suggestions. um Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance for recovery. And I know that's changed over time and is continuing to change, that many in the medical profession don't have that low opinion anymore because they've witnessed our solution. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. Entirely honest with somebody. I didn't have to read my fifth step to every single person in my home group. I didn't have to tell everybody everything. And I certainly don't have to use rigorous honesty as an excuse to be hurtful to somebody. I don't like your shirt. Just being honest, man. Like that's not what we're talking about. But I had to be entirely honest about my inventories, about what was revealed to me in my resentment inventory, fear inventory, sex inventory, the way I harmed other people. If I expect to live long or happily, again, the way that I had been doing it, trying to hide, trying to deny, I was not happy, and my life was uh, certainly at risk. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Intimate and confidential. And it can be more than one person. And I think, most of us are familiar with the fact that when this book was written, the book could be your sponsor. You were just some person alone with just the book. You read it, you follow the directions, and then go find somebody to listen to your fifth step. Go on to help others, and who help others. A group is formed, and now there's more of a one-on-one sponsorship through steps 1 through 12. But in the beginning, people were just following the directions out of the book by themselves sometimes. And so they would have to go find somebody to go listen to their fifth step. It says, those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course will, want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. This brings to mind a story of a friend of mine who relates that he had some stuff on his fifth step. He was on his fourth step writing that he was not willing to tell his sponsor because it would have involved the authorities. And his sponsor suggested that he go tell a priest. And this friend of mine, I don't think he'd ever been to a church, and he's like, where do I find a priest? And so he literally drove around town looking for a church. He found one, pulled up to the church, walked inside, tapped a priest on the shoulder. I think he even said like a wedding was coming out. Like he just like iterated, like, hey, taps his hand on the shoulder of the priest and says, hey, can I talk to you? I need to talk to you about something. And the priest is like, sure, a confession. And my friend goes, no, it's not really a confession. It's this thing I have to do. I'm in this program. I have to tell somebody all this stuff. And the priest said, I'm making up the name. I'm Father Tom, and I'm an alcoholic. Let's go do your fifth step. Random, right? I choke up in the retelling of the story. And yeah, and this guy, he reports that he walked out of that church a free man. He walked out different. How beautiful is that? I like to stress with women I work with, I like to stress the importance of being honest and being thorough. But it doesn't have to be with me. How arrogant would that be? I let them know that if they wish to consult somebody else, if they wish to do it with somebody, like a priest, then do it. Like it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. It's not about me. It doesn't have to be with me. And then this stuff makes me giggle, and obviously it's for the times in which it was written. If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintance for a closed mouth, understanding friend. Obviously, yes. Have to be a closed mouth, understanding friend, intimate, confidential. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own family. That's a big maybe. I think, and it does warn us that can be fraught with difficulties. We cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. Then I would be self-centered, selfish all over again. We're trying to move away from that. Can you imagine, Mom, I have to, will you listen to my fifth step? You're on it a lot, but like, this will help me if I just talk about it, oh my goodness, no. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. And that same message is echoed in step 9 too. Like, we're not trying to hurt someone else just so we can be free. That's not the idea here. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand, yet be unaffected. And check this out. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Hard on myself, but not in a beating myself up kind of way, not in a self-pity kind of way, not banging myself on the head with a hammer, but I am being rigorously honest with myself about my motives and who to share my inventory with. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one is so situated that there is no suitable person available. Maybe. I think most of us in this day and age, we're going to have a person in our lives or accessible to us with whom we can take this step. If that is so, this step may be postponed only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through it at the first opportunity. So again, like the book all over stresses the importance of continuous, vigorous action, using words like launched, immediate, next, now. And so this is in no way saying, sit on that fourth step for a while until you find the perfect person. Suitable people are available to us. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understand and approve what we are driving at. He will not try to change our plan, but we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. My goodness, those of us including myself, who spent time sitting on that fourth step, know that's a pretty painful place to linger. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. So even in these passages talking about like, yeah, maybe you can postpone it, it is saying like complete readiness, first opportunity, and and not using it as an excuse to postpone. We waste no time. We have a written inventory, and we are prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Do I realize that? Do I realize that if I'm on step 4, that this is a life and death errand for me to get to step 5? Do I realize that as a sponsor? This is a life and death errand with this person. I have to be careful I'm not playing God with this person, but alcoholism, addiction is life and death itself for us. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. Absolutely. Absolutely, it's an honor. I know many of you know that, have experienced that, and we get to hear someone's 5th step. What an honor it is. I'm going to skip on over to page 70, just backing up into step 4, talking about like what we are about to do and why we have to do it. It says, if we have been thorough about our personal inventory, we've written down a lot. We've listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. I began to comprehend it, but it became more clear when I simply read it out loud. And even taking it out of the context of steps 4 and step 5, how many of us have, say, shared a 10th step with somebody, and the minute we say it out loud, we're like, I can hear myself now. Okay, thank you. And the other person doesn't have to say anything, and we're like, okay, yeah, I'm the one. I'm selfish. I get it. Like there's something that happens in letting our self-centeredness see the light of day by speaking it out loud, where I'm able to, and not in a way of beating myself up, like, oh my God, I'm such a, whatever. It's like, oh, yep, okay, cool. It's me again, and I want to be free of that. I don't want to be like that anymore. God changed me. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people. Began to learn, and I learned more in the process of that 5th step. We've listed the people we have hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten out the past if we can. The seeds for step 8 and 9 are planted in step 4. So by the time I'm done with step 5 and embarking on 6 and 7, I should be ready for 8. It shouldn't come as a surprise or like, oh my God, what? No, I'm not willing. Like this is a natural part of the progression. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from him. Now this is about to be cast out, it says on the next page. All about facing and being free of what's blocking me from the power I need. If you've already made a decision, step 3, an inventory of your grosser handicap, step 4, you've made a good beginning. It's a beginning. That being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself. Yes. And the truth becomes digestible. I don't have to choke on it so much anymore. To skip back on over to 75, and we have those amazing 5th step promises. And then it says, returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done. So when I'm scheduling a 5th step with a sponsee, we try to make sure we're finding a time where they will be free to spend that quiet hour afterwards, regardless of how long the actual fifth step might take, that they have that wiggle room. They don't have any other obligations scheduled immediately after. They're able to really spend that quiet hour afterwards. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know him better. This isn't just about me getting to know me better. I want to know God better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps, page 59, just the summary of the 12 steps, and I can just read those. And it says, carefully reading the first 5 proposals, the first 5 steps. I'm asking God, if we have omitted anything, we're building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? Back on, where is it? Yeah, 47. So like, I have to admit, I love the big book. Thank you, Bill W. I don't like the references to mortar and sand and cement, because like if you haven't like hung on every word in the previous chapters, like what is he talking about, right? And he's just talking about those first 5 steps. And I'm just asking God these questions. I'm not asking myself or racking my own brain, because I don't know. I think I was thorough. You know, God can reveal to me whether I was or what might be missing. But concerning those stones, on page 47, it says we need to ask ourselves but one short question. This is step 2. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? As soon as a man can say that he does believe, or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him that he is on his way. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. So the cornerstone is as simple as having an open mind about spiritual matters. Is it possible? Is it possible that there's a power greater than me? Yes, it's possible. And then over on 62, last paragraph, this is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. Quit playing God. What does that mean? It means just don't do what's described on the previous pages of the actor who wants to run the whole show. Just stop doing that. Stop being that person who needs other people to be different. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the father. We are his children. Most good ideas are simple. This concept, the concept of this relationship I have to God, where he is the director, he is my employer, I am serving him, he's not working for me. I don't send God out to do my bidding. I don't give God little tasks to do throughout the day to serve me. It's my job to serve him. That is the nature of our relationship. Father to child, principal to agent. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. It is so simple, but if I don't believe in those concepts, then the rest of these steps will probably fall apart. If I'm willing to believe there's a power greater than me, and if I'm willing to believe that the nature of that relationship is that I am to seek that power and seek guidance from that power rather than telling that power what to do, I'm on my way. Then the relationship is right. And so on 75, in the hour after my 5th step, I'm simply asking God these questions, simply keeping an open mind and reading those first 5 steps. Have I been thorough? Do I believe that I'm powerless over alcohol? Do I believe that my life has become unmanageable? Um, am I willing to believe that a power greater than me can restore me to sanity? Was I sincere in this decision to seek this power, to turn myself over to this power? And was my inventory thorough? I made a searching and fearless moral inventory. Did I hold anything back in the writing? Did I hold anything back in reading it? And those are very simple questions that I can just trust that the answers will come from my higher power. And at the end of the hour, if I can answer to my satisfaction, like, yes, everything's thorough, not perfect, thorough, it says we then look at step 6. And we've emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which you have admitted are objectionable? Do I believe that God can remove whatever self-will is blocking me off from him? These defects are about to be cast out. Am I willing? And I won't get too much into step 6, but I appreciate the opportunity to talk about step 5. And I have some more personal experiences with these steps that I'm happy to share with anybody who might be struggling or interested. My phone number is up next to my name. I think that is enough out of me because I want to babble, and that's not a good thing. So I will leave it there. But thank you for letting me share.